So a few quick notes before we get into today's topic. The gym had a bit of an issue the day I was going to record. Yeah. It was also really busy, and I don't like recording when it's overcrowded. So because of that, we'll be playing a game over today's topic. With that said, the format of these will be changing. I'll be keeping the outdoorsy ones, but I think I want more gameplay footage. I think it'd probably help the channel grow a bit. Lastly, those Wednesday videos, they are going to be a lot more relaxed and laid back. Think touching grass, but absolutely unscripted. Just me talking about the game that I'm playing, which I already know which game I want to talk about first. Mostly because I have a theory and I really want to get it off my chest. So if that sounds interesting to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. With all that out of the way, let's get into this week's topic.
Well, the old guy does seem like a mage when making a fuss.
So, what does a challenge in video games do for us? And how is that a reason we play? There are two important questions. Let's address the first one. What does it do for us? Well, aside from feeling like a total badass when you figure out the puzzle or beat that boss, a huge factor of the challenge is being observant. It's not just about beating the level. It's about figuring out how to beat the level. You see, games aren't just forms of art. They aren't just forms of entertainment. They are also tools to build skills. Studies have found that people who play games end up with some sharper skills than people who don't. For example, FPS players tend to have better eyesight at tracking fast-moving objects. RPG players tend to develop skills that are very detail-oriented, looking at every tiny bit of information. Then you have people who play a lot of horror games. Their night vision tends to be much higher than average. Oddly enough, these skills do tend to translate across genres, but they are still skills built from gaming nonetheless. And it makes a lot of sense. We are constantly tracking quick-moving objects across the screen. Most games we play are going to take us to a poorly lit area where we have to figure out the details in sometimes complete darkness. I mean, we could just go into the settings and change the brightness or the gamma, but how often do we even remember to do that? We just kind of fight through it. There are a lot of other skills built through playing. Snap decision making, a better sense of exploration and curiosity, and many others I'm sure I'm forgetting right now. So beyond just entertainment, playing actually does develop a lot of different skills for the players. And those skills are built through challenges. So, let's look into question number 2. As I mentioned in the last 2 videos, life gets boring. We typically do the same things day in and day out. So the smallest things challenge us. Someone is driving too slow? Doesn't seem like much, but it can be a real mental challenge. Though this might be a challenge to some, it could be nothing to others. And we see the same thing in gaming. If we're looking across contemporary games, the challenge level is getting relatively high. Genres like the Souls-like games thrive on that challenge. Even if they're not my favorite type of games, I can admit they are extremely difficult. But why are they so popular? We could get a similar challenge out of, say, a turn-based RPG. Hard games aren't anything new. There are some classics like Battletoads or the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. Neither of these games were particularly good, but we remember how hard they were. There are other retro games out there. Another one that comes to mind is The Adventures of Lolo for the NES, or Fatal Labyrinth for the Sega Mega Drive or the Genesis. If you haven't played any of these games, you should probably give them a go. Even if we move into today's games, it's not just Souls-like games that are hard. It's becoming somewhat of a myth that they are the hardest games out there. But there are plenty other games that can be just as hard outside of that genre. The game you see here isn't the easiest game. See this boss? I just can't get past them. This boss has been hard enough that I actually ended up putting this game away for a very long time, even though I really love this game. But let's look at another genre, RPGs. How do they present their challenge? Well, it's typically in the battle. A lot of people these days will tell you that a turn-based RPG just isn't fun. There's no challenge. Well, it's not about standing in line and waiting your turn. The best way to think about turn-based RPGs is like a game of chess. Do you spend this turn healing a party member or attacking? Do I even have the resources to cast this skill? Do I remove the poison from my teammate now or go on and debuff the enemy? Even before battle begins, you have to plan. What area am I in? What's the common enemy? What is their most dangerous spell? Should I get an item to counter that? Do I even have the money? There's a lot of planning that goes on before you even get to battle in turn-based RPGs. And that's the challenge. With every challenge presented in games, whether they are planning for the next fight, or an actual skill check and reactions, or spotting openings, most games will offer some level of difficulty. And then there's a social challenge. When I'm talking about this, I mean playing with and against other people. Competitive gaming is still a huge industry. Look at Rocket League or League of Legends. They present very unique challenges, especially in League of Legends. A constantly changing meta that you have to figuring out how people are going to play in lane, especially if you're in bot lane. And then there's the challenge playing with people. I'm thinking of games like Phasmophobia. Will someone's fear of the dark, creepy house hinder the rest of the team? How do we get around that? Sure, we could probably just stick them on cams, but do they even know what they're looking for? Or you have that team member who is just fearless and their MO is death in every map. These are other challenges that we have to face, and we learn to work with other people, even sometimes when we don't want to. Sure, it's fun to play with friends, but there's always that one, the Leroy Jenkins. We can go even deeper with this, with MMOs. Have you ever played Final Fantasy XIV or the original EverQuest? Some of those dungeon runs or boss battles were absolute hell, and they would take hours and hours of coordinating before you even get to the battle itself. How to work with sometimes hundreds of people. This is probably the greatest challenge when it comes to MMOs, but it's also one of the things that make MMOs so damn fun. Another challenge that games present is stress levels. I know, it sounds counterintuitive. Games are supposed to be fun. Why would we play them if they stress us out? Well, it's the same reason we tend to do dangerous things in games. It's a controlled environment. We know we'll get past it eventually, and once we've gotten past it, we feel amazing. Anyone who has ever played a game knows the feeling once you get past it, that sigh of relief, the feeling of knowing you're past it. It's a good feeling. And we usually get something afterwards, which is also a nice reward. There's also the dopamine kick. The last thing I want to talk about is how they challenge our way of thinking, our viewing the world. This is something tied to storytelling, which will be the next video, and I've actually got something special planned for that, something a little bit more calmer. But some games challenge our very worldview. How we see religion. Is the propaganda spread in our country a true reflection of life in other places? Even the idea of race is on the table. And it goes much further. I know a lot of people give BioShock Infinite crap. I still think it's the best one. By the time I got done playing that game, I had to just sit there and consider what it was I just played. I mean, I've played plenty of time-hopping, multiverse-themed games, but there is something about BioShock Infinite that challenged my ideas of cause and effect. Is there truly another universe or reality that is affecting ours? These might be hypothetical questions, but they still challenge us and make us think what is real and what isn't. Games aren't just about escaping our adventure. There's so much more. They help us build skills, dare us to do things that we might not have thought of doing, and challenge our very way of thinking. Speaking of thinking, if you think you like these videos, you can always like, subscribe, and share. And hit the notification bell for when the next video comes up. With that said, I think we're pretty much done with this topic. So, until next time, keep playing. Bye for now.